So I was asked to make a series of videos on basic formulation, and I'll endeavor to do so, but first thing I want to make clear is that in an hour worth of teaching, it's going to be impossible to make someone into a nutritionist. So just be careful when you're doing this. There's some basic tools that you can use, but be careful because you can really mess things up if you don't take into account everything. And this is, we're not going to be taking everything into account in an hour. There's just no way we can. So one of the first things I want to understand is the Pearson Square. And so I like using Excel to do that. It can be done on paper as well, but I like Pearson's the Excel or some other spreadsheet to do that. So the Pearson Square, I would say, is to ration formulation what the alphabet is to reading. You really don't understand formulation unless you understand the Pearson Square, just like you really can't read unless you know your alphabet ahead of time. And so what it is basically is we have percentages from different feeds, and the Pearson Square can only do 2 different feeds. And from that, we can then come up with a balance, a target balance of, for example, crude protein percent or something like that. So let's just start with that. Let's say we're going to do a diet, and this isn't going to be a good diet by any stretch of imagination. Again, this is just to get us started at it, where we're going to formulate a diet with either corn and distillers grains. Okay, the byproduct of the ethanol industry. We know that corn, at least the corn that I'm going to be using, is 8% crude protein. So I'm going to put in 0.08, and I'm going to just make this into a percent, increase the decimal point there, so you can just see that number. I'm just going to copy this down so I can take the format down there, and then I'm going to make that 29% down there. Okay, so I got corn and I got distillers. I purposefully left a space between there because with the Pearson Square, the way I can do that is I'm going to put in here what my target is. What is my target? So I have right here the nutrient requirements, NRC nutrient requirements for small ruminants. And when I look in there, an early lactation ewe who's going to have triplets, and she weighs 80 kilos, she is going to require, they're predicting that she's going to eat 2.77 kilograms of feed a day, of dry matter a day, kilograms of dry matter intake per day. Keep in mind, your sheep don't know how to read. They don't know that that's how much they're going to eat, or they should be able to eat. So the true number you should be using there is what your animals truly are eating. And this particular animal requires 0.35 kilograms of crude protein a day. Kilograms of crude protein per day. So what percent crude protein will this animal require? The simple answer here is going to be this 0.35 divided by 2.77, and this is a percent, so we can just change that to a percent. I'll increase the decimal point by 1 as well, so we have the 12.6. So that's going to be our target crude protein level. So I could have put it right up here right away, but I just want to show you how I got that. And so now we can do what's called the Pearson Square. The Pearson Square is basically a pictorial way of doing a simple simultaneous equations. And so what I do is you do it always across. And so and it's absolute values that you use. So in this case, I'm going to say 12.6 minus 8 goes down here. So 12.6 minus 8 is the number for down there. And the number for up here is going to be now 29 minus 12.6. And so we get these two proportions, these two amounts. What we can do then is we can add those two amounts up. Okay, and I get 21. Just as a quick little check, this 21 should always equal this number minus this number. Okay, 29 minus 8 equals 21. Okay, we did everything correctly to this point. Now, the other thing, well, of course, it doesn't matter what number is in here, that number will always be 21. And so therefore, you may have put the wrong number in the middle and still get a 21, okay? But that just means I did my math on my Pearson Square correctly. Now, the thing that's important to understand with this is that this number obviously has to be between 8 and 29. There's no way I can mix corn and distillers grains to get a final feed that has only 7% crude protein or has a 30% crude protein, because the crude protein level of corn is 8 and of distillers grains is 29. Okay, so that means that it'll be 16.4. Then it becomes, if my 16.4 of this total 21 is going to be, and Excel loves to do this, and I don't know why. I'm just going to wait till I do this one as well. You take the proportion that is going to be the distillers, and you divide it by the total amount there, and then you can decrease these decimal points to a reasonable number, and now I can bring this back into a reasonable width as well. Okay, so what this basically means is if I mix a diet of 77.9% corn and 22.1% distiller's grains, I will achieve a diet that should target and produce the 0.35 kilograms of crude protein. Okay, so this is like a dry matter intake on a percent basis. So let's find out what the dry matter intake is on a kilograms per day basis. If this animal, this ewe, is going to eat 77.9% of its feed is going to be corn, and this much of its diet, this is how much it's going to eat in a day, that means it's going to eat, that times 77.9. Okay, so and that means that the animal is going to eat 2.185. Okay, and I'm just going to use this thing to decrease the decimal points, 2.16. Now, you can't just copy this down. If I were to copy this down, notice how when I double click on here, you can see which ones it's using, it's highlighting. If I just copy this down and paste it down here, it's actually going down to here as well. It takes this one automatically, but it goes down there. And so you have a few choices. Either you can just double click on that one and then click on the right spot again in order to get that number. Or the other thing I find easier to do is if you just go up to here and I can just make it so it wants to hold fast the blue line. So I just put a $sign before. In this case, I don't need to put it before the C, but I need to put it before the 12. And that will freeze it. That'll always pick up the 12. And there you can see it's got the 12. Okay, just a little Excel trick. I'll show a few of those as we're going through just to make this a little bit simpler. And so if I find out now then what is the sum of these two? I can just go sum, and the animal is eating 2.77 kilos, which is what we're targeting. Now, if the animal is eating this much corn, how much crude protein is it going to get from that corn? Kilograms per day. Well, it's going to eat this much corn, and this percentage of it is crude protein. That means it's going to be eating about 0.17, let's just say 173 kilograms of crude protein in a day. And now I can copy this down here and paste that down there and it will go correctly. It takes those two numbers like that. And now I can copy the sum as well and put the sum there. And you can see that the animal is going to eat 0.35. This is the sum of those two numbers on top of it. And it's going to eat that 0.35 kilograms of crude protein a day. So now we haven't looked at energy. We haven't looked at any other factors on here yet, but I just wanted to show you the fundamentals of what the Pearson Square can do. The fundamentals of the Pearson Square is that whatever number I target in the middle, I can hit that target and get the animal to have the right amount of, it's going to eat, if that's how much feed it's going to eat, this is how much crude protein it's going to consume. One of the beauties of Excel actually is let's say I try this out and I find that I'm just not getting the performance that the NRC says I should be getting, and I want to up this a little bit. So let's say I want to go to 0.4 kilograms per day. When I do that, all the numbers automatically correct in here because I've done all these equations. The numbers, what I usually do when I'm going to do a formulation like this too is I will pick the spots where I can change numbers. So for example, I could change these things. I could change ingredients, for example, if I wanted to use different ingredients. And then everything else is equations, and then these two numbers here also can be changed in terms of requirements. Everything else is calculated. And so let's say I decide I want to go with oats. All right, I'm going to go 13% crude protein in those oats, and I automatically does all the calculation I need. It says actually I need 91% oats and 9% distillers, and so there I'm still hitting that same target that I wanted to target before. Okay, so I can change this easily, and all the other numbers automatically calculate in there. Okay, so that's the fundamentals. That's the Pearson Square, the very, very simple fundamental way of doing a formulation. And by the way, this can be very handy just when you're out and doing stuff. You have, let's say you have a feed supplement and hay, and you find out that this hay has got a little bit more protein or something like that, and you still want to target, for example, 15% crude protein or whatever that target you want to hit in the middle is, you can just quickly do a Pearson Square out in the barn in some dirt on the floor, and you know where you have to be in order how much of each to feed. Okay, so just a simple way to do that using the Pearson Square. All right, next we're going to step it up considerably because, as you probably already have guessed, how often do we feed only just 2 feeds? Usually we feed considerably more feeds, and so I'm going to show you how to do that as well.